Moving on, Russia has been increasingly critical of Israel at the United Nations since the Jewish state began expressing sympathy last year to Ukraine's security and humanitarian concerns. Our senior U.S. correspondent Mike Wagenheim says things came to a head on Tuesday at the UN Security Council's quarterly open debate on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which also coincided with Israel's Memorial Day for its fallen soldiers and victims of terror. More in his report from New York.
Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, was furious. On Tuesday afternoon, the UN Security Council held an open debate on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, coinciding with Israel's annual Day of Remembrance, Yom HaZikaron. Erdan said he asked the Security Council president for the month of April, the Russian Federation, to move the meeting to another date. They refused. Erdan said it crossed a line.
The decision to nonetheless hold this debate on today, of all days, only further proves what Israelis already know and feel about this biased organization. Mr. President, what would you do if this council was convening to single out and condemn the Russian Federation and your soldiers on the 9th of May, on Victory Day over the Nazis?
So Erdan proceeded to do what so many Israelis do on Yom HaZikaron across the country. He lit a candle and recalled the names of those who have passed over the last year, either in the line of duty or as victims of Palestinian terrorism.
I'm sorry, but I refuse to spend this sacred day listening to lies and condemnation. This debate disgraces the fallen, and Israel will not take part in it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Later on in the afternoon, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who was chairing Tuesday's Security Council meeting, addressed the media and was specifically asked about the controversy surrounding Tuesday's meeting. He said, hey, other countries have been inconvenienced on their national days of importance, and anyway, Israel did not take their concerns to Russia beforehand.
Regarding today's meeting, I cannot, unfortunately, comment on the details because when we became the president of the council and discussed the schedule of meetings and the topics of meeting, there were no objections to having the meeting on the Middle East, including Palestine, today. The representative of Israel asked rhetorical questions very emotionally about how Russia would feel if there was an anti-Russia meeting held on May 9th, which is Victory Day. Well, I've been working at the UN. I worked at the UN for 10 years, and we held meetings on May 9th discussing all sorts of issues. We also held meetings on other holidays that were important to other member states. That's just the nature of the organization. If we exclude every single date that every member state would like to leave free on a calendar, well, you understand we'll have very few days left to work with.
Well, that, as they say, is Russian disinformation. We saw an email from Gilad Erdan to his Russian counterpart, ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, back on April 3rd, saying that Israel had already brought the controversy to Russia's attention several times before the schedule for the month was published. Nebenzia replied in an email on April 11th, saying those concerns had, in fact, been brought to Moscow. Lavrov was also asked on Tuesday afternoon about the JCPOA and whether it remains alive or not. He said that European countries have lost interest in reviving the JCPOA, quote unquote, for some reason. He did not bring up the fact that Iran is providing drones to Russia to use in their assault against Ukrainian civilians. Here from the United Nations Security Council in New York, Mike Wagenheim, I-24 News.